Some people walk through this world with armor. They speak louder, move faster, push harder. They call it strength, and in a way it is. But what about those of us who feel more? What about the ones who notice the tension in a room before anyone says a word, who cry at beauty just as easily as at pain, who carry not only their own worries but also the silent weight of others? In a world that often rewards numbness and noise, sensitivity can feel like a burden. We're told to toughen up, stop overthinking, grow a thicker skin. But what if your sensitivity wasn't something to fix? What if it was your superpower, just wildly misunderstood? Let's ask the harder question. How do you stay soft in a world that keeps trying to harden you? How do you protect your peace without closing your heart? And is it even possible to thrive as a sensitive person in a world that seems built for the bold, the loud, the indifferent? Most of us were never taught that sensitivity is a form of intelligence, that being deeply affected by life is not weakness but a sign that you are awake. We learn to apologize for being too much, or shrink ourselves to fit into places where our depth felt unwelcome. But here's the paradox. The very traits that make you feel like an outsider are the ones this world needs most. Empathy, intuition, depth, compassion. Not as accessories, but as anchors. Still, thriving doesn't just mean surviving with sensitivity. It means learning to navigate life in a way that honors your nervous system, your truth, and your soul. It means asking not, how do I fit into this world, but how do I build a life where I can truly belong? This video is not about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you are before the world told you otherwise. And it's about crafting a new map for sensitive people. One built on boundaries, wisdom, and fierce inner gentleness. Because let's be honest, sensitivity in an insensitive world can feel like standing barefoot on broken glass. But it can also be a compass guiding you to what's real, what's meaningful, what's true. So, let's go deeper. Let's unpack what it means to be a sensitive soul, and how to not just survive the noise of the world, but to rise above it with quiet strength and luminous clarity. They called you too sensitive, didn't they? Too emotional, too fragile, too much. And after hearing that enough times, you began to wonder, maybe they're right. Maybe there is something wrong with you for feeling things so deeply. Maybe if you could just be a little less affected, a little more detached, you'd finally fit in. This is the great distortion of sensitivity in our culture. We mistake depth for weakness. We misread silence as insecurity. We confuse empathy with fragility. And in doing so, we shame people into disconnecting from their greatest inner strengths. But let me tell you something no one probably told you growing up. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, in many ways, you've been reacting appropriately to a world that is often emotionally overwhelming and spiritually loud. Let's be honest, this world doesn't make room for quiet souls. It glorifies those who speak quickly, act impulsively, dominate conversations. It's structured for efficiency, speed, and certainty, but sensitivity moves differently. It pauses, it reflects, it feels. And because that rhythm doesn't match the world's tempo, you get labeled. But here's the truth. Labels are lazy. Calling someone too sensitive is easier than asking, what does this person see that I don't? What are they picking up on that I've learned to ignore? What if their discomfort is actually a message I should be listening to? Sensitivity is often the first response to truth, to injustice, to beauty, to subtle shifts in tone, energy, or presence. You notice what others filter out, and that can be exhausting, but it's also a gift. Because when you notice more, you understand more, and when you understand more, you're better equipped to create meaning, to heal, to lead with wisdom. But here's where it gets tricky. When your inner world doesn't match the outer one, the pain can grow loud. You start performing strength while suppressing softness. You start over-explaining yourself just to feel valid, and eventually, you begin to distrust your own intuition. That's the real cost of misunderstanding sensitivity. Not just social rejection, but self-abandonment. You stop believing in what you feel, and once that's gone, the world becomes colder, louder, more distant, not because it changed, but because you silenced the one voice that used to connect you to it, your own. Here's what I want you to know. You're not broken. You're in tune. You're not weak, you're awake, and your sensitivity doesn't make you less capable, it makes you more conscious. But I also won't lie to you. Thriving in an insensitive world doesn't just happen by being soft and hoping for the best. It takes intention, awareness, boundaries. We'll talk about how to build that inner strength soon, so keep watching. Because the truth is, most people aren't cruel. They're just disconnected. And your depth can be a bridge, not a burden. But only if you stop hiding it. Only if you start understanding it. So next time someone calls you too sensitive, pause and remember, you're not too anything. You are exactly as you were meant to be. Only the world forgot how to see it. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll explore not just how to protect your sensitivity, but how to honor it, structure it, and use it as a compass instead of a curse. You don't want to miss that. There's a quiet strength that lives within you, not the kind that roars or dominates the room, but the kind that bends without breaking, feels deeply without drowning, and keeps walking, even when the world feels too much. If you're a sensitive person, you've likely been told to toughen up, grow thicker skin, or stop taking everything so personally. But the truth is, sensitivity and resilience are not opposites. They are companions. Think of bamboo in a storm. It sways, it yields, and because it doesn't resist the wind, it survives it. That's the kind of resilience we're talking about. Not hard, but flexible. Not armored, but rooted. Highly sensitive people often feel overwhelmed not because they are weak, but because they care, absorb, and process more than most. Emotional waves come stronger. Rejection stings deeper. Criticism echoes louder. But within this very depth lies the seed of something extraordinary. The capacity to grow roots so deep, no external storm can shake you. Resilience doesn't mean you never fall apart. It means you know how to gather your pieces with grace. It starts with naming what's happening. When you feel yourself spiraling, pause. Not to suppress the feeling, but to give it a name. I'm overwhelmed. I'm afraid of failing. I'm feeling rejected. Naming an emotion gives it a boundary. It transforms a storm into a cloud. It says, I see you, I hear you, but you don't define me. Then comes the deeper work, reframing the story you tell yourself. Not, I'm too sensitive for this world, but this world wasn't designed with my nervous system in mind, and yet, I'm still here, adapting, feeling, offering my truth. Not, I can't handle this, but this is hard, and I'm learning how to handle it. You are allowed to feel everything and still not be broken by it. In fact, that's what makes you powerful. Here are quiet tools for building your resilience. Create inner space before reacting. When someone criticizes you or the world overwhelms you, buy yourself a breath, a moment of stillness between trigger and response. This space is sacred. It's where your power lives. Practice emotional hygiene. We shower daily for our bodies, but what about our hearts? Journaling, meditation, time in nature, or simply asking, what do I feel right now? These rituals help sensitive souls stay clean in a noisy world. Anchor yourself in what doesn't change. Values, truth, integrity. The world will always be loud, but your anchor is within. Return to it often. Celebrate your comebacks. Did you make it through a day that tried to break you? Did you feel hurt and still stay kind? That's resilience. That's your strength. Mark it, honor it, remember it. You don't have to be a cactus in the desert. You can be a wildflower, delicate, yes, but rooted in strength, and still grow even in harshness. Your softness is not a liability. It's the proof that you are still alive, still open, still reaching toward the sun. There's a silent pattern many highly sensitive people carry. One that lives in the nervous smile, the quiet nod, the yes that really wanted to be a no. It's the reflex to accommodate, to keep the peace, to smooth the edges of conflict even when it slices our own skin. For HSPs, boundaries are rarely just about saying no. They're about risking rejection, risking the loss of connection, risking the deep ache of being misunderstood. And so, many sensitive souls learn to stretch themselves beyond comfort, offering emotional labor they don't have the energy for, just to feel safe, wanted, or good. But here's the paradox. The more we betray ourselves in the name of peace, the more inner chaos we create. Why boundaries feel so unnatural, but are so necessary. If you've spent your life tuned into the emotional frequencies of everyone around you, setting a boundary can feel like betrayal. You feel their disappointment before it even leaves their face. You sense their disapproval before a word is spoken, and because your nervous system is wired to detect even subtle emotional shifts, you don't just notice their reaction, you absorb it. It floods your system like a wave. This is what makes boundaries so difficult for HSPs. It's not about not knowing what we need. It's about feeling too much when we try to claim it. But without boundaries, there's no self, only reaction. A philosophical truth. The edge is where you begin. Boundaries are not walls, they are the skin of your soul. They define where you end and where someone else begins. They allow intimacy without fusion, generosity without depletion, presence without losing yourself. Think of a tree. It does not apologize for the space it takes. Its roots push into the earth, its branches stretch to the sky, not because it is selfish, but because that is how it lives. Your boundaries are your roots. Without them, you can't grow, only bend. From people-pleasing to soul-pleasing. Many SSPs are people-pleasers. Not because they're weak, but because they're wired for empathy. Because harmony feels better than conflict. Because the nervous system craves safety, and approval often masquerades as safety. But people-pleasing is a slow form of self-erasure. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you train your body to override your own intuition. Healing this starts with a radical shift. Ask not, will they still like me if I say no? Ask, can I still like myself if I say yes to something that hurts me? Practical guide, building boundaries that feel safe. Let's make this real. Here are tools that work, not just in theory, but in the body. Name the fear. Before setting a boundary, ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I say no? Rejection? Judgment? Abandonment? Naming it takes it out of the shadows. Breathe through the guilt. Guilt is not always a signal of wrongdoing. For HSPs, guilt often shows up just because we're used to overgiving. Let it be there, and do it anyway. Use kind, clear language. Boundaries don't have to be harsh to be firm. I'd love to help, but I don't have the capacity right now. Simple, honest. Enough. Practice micro boundaries. Start small. Don't answer messages instantly. Take a break without explaining yourself. Decline a call when you're drained. These small acts rewire your nervous system to safety. Visualize your energy field. This might sound woo, but it works. Imagine your energy as a soft golden bubble around you. Let what nourishes in, let what depletes stay out. Feel the difference. New definition of kindness. Being kind doesn't mean being endlessly available. True kindness includes yourself. A boundary is not rejection. It's a sacred act of preservation. You're not selfish for resting. You're not cold for stepping back. You're not difficult for refusing to carry what's not yours. In fact, the more you honor your limits, the more you have to offer. Burnt-out empathy helps no one. A grounded, nourished heart is far more generous. Final reflection. Imagine this. You say no, and instead of spiraling into shame, you feel a quiet dignity. You feel your feet on the ground. Your chest rises with breath. You are still here. You are still loved. Because every no to what drains you is a yes to what sustains you. And maybe, just maybe, that's where real healing begins. Some flowers thrive in the harsh sun, others bloom only in shade, but both are valid expressions of life. If you're a highly sensitive person, chances are you've tried more than once to grow in places that didn't suit your nature. You've stayed in loud rooms, in fast-moving conversations, in relationships that drained instead of nourished, and maybe you thought, it must be me. I must be too fragile for this world. But what if the problem isn't you? What if you've just been planting yourself in the wrong garden? Sensitivity, like any rare and intricate trait, requires care. It's not a flaw, it's a design. A design that asks for depth, calm, authenticity, and meaning. And when you continuously expose it to chaos, performance, or superficiality, it wilts, not because it's weak, but because it's wise enough to retreat when the environment is hostile. We often underestimate the power of environment, but it's one of the greatest forces shaping our emotional health. The people you talk to, the spaces you inhabit, the pace of your day, the energy of your social media feed. These are not minor details. For sensitive souls, they are everything: toxic surroundings and invisible wounds. Not all toxins are loud, some speak in subtle ways. Constant interruptions, the pressure to always be on, the dismissal of your feelings, the underlying message that softness is weakness. HSPs are like emotional tuning forks. You pick up the vibrations in the room before a word is even spoken. You feel tension behind a smile, sadness beneath a laughter. That makes you gifted. But it also means that when you're around chronic negativity or superficiality, it gets under your skin like invisible smoke. You may find yourself exhausted after a phone call, disoriented after scrolling, or confused after spending time with people who did nothing wrong. But your nervous system knows. It's constantly translating energy into emotion, even if you don't consciously understand why you feel off. That's why the environment matters. Who waters your roots? Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, who in my life makes me feel safe to be fully myself? What spaces allow me to breathe deeper? Which activities leave me replenished instead of depleted? And equally important, who makes me second-guess my emotions? What environments feel fast, loud, or demanding? Which relationships feel like I'm always performing? These aren't selfish questions, they are survival questions. Because a sensitive system can only thrive where there is resonance, not resistance. Start becoming intentional. Seek out places and people where your nervous system relaxes instead of braces, where you are seen, not judged, heard, not silenced. Curate your inner and outer world. You are the curator of your own ecosystem. Online, follow accounts that inspire, soothe, and validate your inner world. Unfollow those that trigger comparison, hustle pressure, or emotional disconnection. Offline, choose events that align with your energy. Give yourself permission to leave early. Say no without a script or an apology. Relationships, prioritize those who reciprocate, who understand that I need some quiet time is not rejection, but an act of self-preservation. Spaces, design your home, your schedule, your routines in ways that support peace. It's not indulgent, it's preventative care for your mind and heart. Every decision becomes an act of protection and affirmation. This matters. I matter. It's not isolation. It's intelligent selection. Often, sensitive people fear that by withdrawing from certain environments, they'll end up isolated or judged. But solitude and isolation are not the same. The first is sacred, the second is suffering. You are not running away from the world, you are choosing your version of it. You are saying, I don't need to belong everywhere, I need to belong to myself first. And when you do that, when you become rooted in environments that celebrate, not crush your sensitivity, you begin to thrive. You begin to feel things again not as burdens but as gifts. Your creativity returns. Your energy stabilizes. Your joy feels less conditional because now, finally, you are blooming in the right soil. At the heart of every struggle, every anxious thought, every moment of burnout, every tear shed in silence, there is one aching question. Do I really matter? For sensitive souls, this question often runs like a quiet undercurrent beneath daily life. You give so much, you feel so deeply, and yet, somewhere along the way, you learned to doubt your own importance, to put others first, to apologize for taking up space. But here's the radical truth you've been waiting to hear. You matter simply because you exist, not because you're helpful, not because you're productive, not because you're always kind, always calm, always composed, but because you are a living, breathing being with a rich inner world. And that inner world deserves protection, recognition, and most of all, permission. Permission to take up space. Somewhere in childhood or early life, many sensitive people received the message that their needs were too much. Their tears, their intensity, their questions, too loud for a quiet world. So they learned to shrink, to accommodate, to become experts in reading the room and silencing their own truth. But surviving isn't the same as thriving. To thrive, you must begin giving yourself what the world didn't. Permission. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to speak even when your voice shakes. Permission to want something more than just peacekeeping. Permission to fail, to grow, to not have it all figured out. You don't need external validation to confirm your worth. You don't need to earn your existence. You just need to believe, even quietly at first, that your presence here has meaning. Reclaiming your narrative. Your sensitivity is not a side effect. It's not an obstacle. It's a compass. It tells you when something is off. It reveals beauty others overlook. It lets you connect, not just with words, but with energy. It makes you a healer, a poet, a listener, a visionary. But for this gift to flourish, you must reclaim your narrative. No longer, I'm too sensitive, but rather, I am finely attuned. No longer, I should toughen up, but rather, I will learn to honor my own rhythm. No longer, I'll be okay as long as I'm needed, but rather, I am okay because I am me. Self-worth isn't built in grand declarations. It's in the daily choice to return to yourself with kindness. It's in how you talk to yourself in the mirror, how you tend to your needs when no one's watching, how you decide again and again that you will not abandon yourself, anchoring in self-compassion. On days when the world feels sharp and your edges feel exposed, come back to this. You are not broken. You are alive. You are not weak. You are awake. You are not a burden. You are a bridge. Between feeling and meaning, between silence and expression, between numbness and real connection, speak to yourself the way you would to a dear friend. It's okay to feel this much. It's okay to need time. I've got you. Because self-worth is not a destination. It's a homecoming, and you are finally, truly home.